Hey, I'm not Dan. There's no haze here, right? So what's going on, everybody? We're here. We got IAGON. We got Dr. Navjit with us. We got Brock, the product manager. We got Sam, co-founder of Zengate. We're going to talk about adoption, Cardano. We're going to talk about everything IAGON has going on. Oh, that's the end of the show. Everybody have a great day. April Fools, just messing with you, right? So remember, don't listen to anything that you hear today and just blow it off, right? Because it's that day of the year. So just don't even pay attention to any news announcements. Sam, how you been, buddy? It's been a while since you've been on the mainstream.
Yeah, it's been a little while. It's been a very long day. I think came in at 9 and it's 10. There's some people in the office still, and we've been super busy. Heading off to Africa actually in a week or so as well to work with some customers. So it's been a very busy Q1, and I think Q2 is going to be even better. So yeah, good to be on here.
Yeah, it's good to have you back on. We got Brock, IAGON product manager. How you doing today, man?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing well. Drinking my coffee.
Same here. So. Yep, first of the day. Just woke up. So
same. Dr. Navjit, how are you, sir?
Doing good. Busy. Like Sam as well. It's good to be at the product to customer facing phase where you're just focusing on delivering and listening to the customer. So it's awesome to be at this phase of the project. So doing well.
Yeah, it's really good to have you guys on. I know you guys are doing a lot of exciting things with decentralized storage, and you have a lot of things that you just recently have started to do. I believe maybe delegated staking is out for you guys now, and I think that just recently happened. So that's real interesting, and we can get into here a little bit. But first off, for those from our community that may not know who you guys are, Brock, if you want to kind of start and just give us a little background of where you came from and how you got into crypto, and then how you joined the IAGON team.
Yeah, totally. I'm Brock. I'm a DREP and a stake pool operator, and a daily Cardano user of many years now. I got into Bitcoin and Dogecoin and Ethereum and stuff back in 2017 or so. And then I came across Cardano when I was exploring different proof of stake networks in around 2021 probably. And Cardano just became like the clear best option pretty quickly. So I'd never really looked back at anything else and just been focused on Cardano ever since. I started at IAGON a year ago today, I think, actually. Unless it was March or April now? I think it might have been a year ago today. So 1 year strong. But I kind of just was hanging around the community in their Discord around mainnet launch time, which was December 25th, Christmas Day, 2023. And I was excited to run a storage node because I'm into running storage servers. It's part of the main industry that I come from in post-production. And I just quickly started to learn a lot about what was going on with IAGON and started helping the community as well as much as I could in my free time. And then providing feedback to the developers at the time and Navjit. And Nav was kind of like, hey, you have to come work for us. And I was like, well, I don't, I have like a business that I run and like, I don't really have a whole lot of time. And he's like, yeah, but you should come work with us. So kind of forced my hand a bit, but it was a very good decision. I'm very, very happy and very proud to be part of this team. I truly think it's one of the best in the industry.
It's a really awesome story because it's kind of echoes a lot of my own story. Right? I started with this team about a year ago, right? At the end of this month, a year ago, something like that. I was part of the community. I had been running Cardano over coffee, and so our stories a lot are alike, and that's really cool that they got you from the community. And we're big on that too, right? From hiring within the community, people who are inside of crypto and bringing them onto the team. So that's a really cool story.
Absolutely, yeah.
Dr. Navjit, everybody should know you, but if they don't, why don't you tell them a little bit about yourself?
I mean, at least in the Cardano community, hopefully a lot of people know me, but I'm the founder of IAGON, and I've been in the crypto space for quite a bit now, since 2013. but I'm kind of focused on, healthcare records first, and I'm from the healthcare industry myself. And over time, I try to imply basically, security of data, privacy of data, while using blockchain technology. And over time, that idea evolved into IAGON, and IAGON migrated actually from Ethereum, because Ethereum was much more mature when we actually first started doing fundraising in 2018 for the ICO. We built it on Ethereum because it's very mature, and it's kind of the only kind of layer, I would say layer one, that was available at that time, that was mature enough to be able to kind of run the business model. But over time, there became like a lot of competitors, and Cardano matured a lot. Cardano had a very unique vision compared to the other ones, and I think that it carries a lot of advantages that we liked, and it fit our business model really well. And that's when we decided to, a year before actually smart contracts was released on Cardano, we decided to migrate over to Cardano, and then 2021 is when it happened, and now we're here.
I was going to say, it was that long ago. I remember when you guys announced migrating over. I've been in Cardano that long, folks. Jeez. However, I remember like you guys on Ethereum also. I wasn't big into Ethereum back then, but remember 2018, 2019, there wasn't much going on in Cardano at the time. So I was paying attention to a lot of the crypto industries. Can you tell us like what was the vision that you saw that Cardano had? And then also, if you could just talk a little bit about the core mission of what IAGON is doing.
Yeah, sure. I mean, the things that attracted us to Cardano were, first of all, the security layer, and then also the cost effectiveness, and the decentralization goes along with the security, right? So over time, and this has been proven over time that we've made the right choice. I mean, we could look back and easily say we made the right choice now, but it's good to verify that finally and get that approval, like, okay, we are on the most decentralized layer one. We are on a very secure network. That's important for example, access of data, because that's how we're using blockchain in IAGON, which is access layer, being one of the most important ones. Of course, there's others. And then cost effectiveness, right? With Ethereum at that time, we were paying a ridiculous amount of fees just for subscription. And here, for example, we're able to lower our costs for 1 terabyte a month, about $2 a month, if you have IAG tokens, and $4 a month if you don't have IAG tokens. So it allows us to go with our business model, which is kind of reducing costs, increasing privacy and security. And we don't have to rebuild something that is already built by Cardano, right? We want to take all the advantages that Cardano is offering and offering it to our users. And what IAGON's vision is basically building a distributed storage and compute platform. And obviously, it was first of all, focused on the healthcare sector. The other co-founders helped mold it into what it is today. First, it was just focused on healthcare, then it became a lot more generic. And then we wanted to focus a little bit on making sure that it is compliant with regulations around the world, because we believe that enterprises will not adopt a solution unless they have kind of not a guarantee, but some kind of affirmation that this can be compliant with regulation. And this is one of the reasons why a lot of storage protocols like Filecoin, Siacoin, and Arweave have not really picked up traction in enterprise use cases, because you're not going to get the interest of enterprises if you aren't compliant with local regulations. That doesn't really fit their model. But Arweave, Filecoin, great use cases. They are for certain situations. For example, Arweave for perma storage, and Filecoin specifically for NFTs or indexing on chain. So these kind of use cases, therefore, for our use case is specifically focused on securing data private and in a compliant way, and that's where we're targeting enterprise consumers. So the vision has changed a lot since the first kind of get-go when we from the healthcare sector, and it's molded over since. But over time, what we want to have is just a tooling set. IAGON is just kind of like a middleware, if you will. It's creating tool set for node operators and creating a tool set for users. We can customize those tool sets to the liking of the node operators and the liking of the users. So for example, for node operators, you can distinguish, who's storing on your nodes, right? You have to, if you want to geo-restrict it to a certain region or things like that. So this is a small example of what kind of tool set is. On the user side, you can gate basically your files to a specific region, thereby being in generally compliant with local regulations like GDPR, where data can only be in the EU. So we can geolocate the data in EU region. You can select different types of nodes, performance-wise, availability-wise. So it's the customization of it that makes it very unique with IAGON. And the vision obviously started just not so long ago. We launched a mainnet in 2023. And we have had a huge success, especially with delegated staking coming out, where we're now be able to involve token holders in the shared storage economy, where they can delegate to increase the storage capacity of other node operators if they don't know the tech side of it. So it's still, we believe that there's a lot of development to do, and a lot of ways to go to fulfill the mission and the vision.
The work is never done, right? But you touched on some key subjects there, and I want to get Sam's input on this a little bit, and that's regulation, right? And adoption based off of a regulation. Sam, we've kind of went that same route with regulation, right? And is that the reason why? Is that what you foresee too? Kind of like you're not going to see big adoption without following the regulations?
Yeah, well, I think like my background is in financial services. So I'm trained as an economist originally, but I also spent some time working as a management consultant. We used to work with the biggest banks and insurers out there. So the lens that I come from, and there are several members in the team who also have that sort of training. Like, we're sort of used to the fact that we have to work with regulators. A lot of the projects we used to work on at Oliver Wyman were risk related. We're working with the financial service regulators in different jurisdictions, central banks. You can't really operate your business without licenses or without compliance. So we're sort of coming from a background where you have to do that. And then the interesting thing for us is in the commodity space, it's very highly regulated. You can't really import and export physical goods without the right documentation, without the right proof of records, proof of origin. So firstly, we didn't have a choice. But secondly, there's just a huge gap in terms of plugging all these pieces together. And just to also comment on something Dr. Navjit said before was like some of the stuff we're working on right now, many projects that attempted to do it in like 2017, 2018. And it's only now that, because we were observing what was being done all those years and have started or have been doing it for the last year or two, we do have a lot more optionality in terms of what we can use from a technology point of view. And for us, like with supply chain tracking and credentials, it turns out that UTXO-based systems are the best way to go. It's, inputs, outputs, you have buckets of honey that transform into drums, right? There's transformations and aggregation events and whatnot. So it's worked out really well. And many of our competitors who had maybe had that first mover advantage started off on private Ethereum networks, and now in a position where they either have to, completely scrap it and build again, or just keep building with the system that they have. But permissioned Ethereum sort of EVMs they're not as popular anymore, right? Like, we have lots of different alternatives. Like, you could build on L2s. We're seeing World Mobile, build their own L3. You've seen projects like IAGON port over to Cardano and to make most of the the cost economics on that side as well as the security. So it's just to answer the bit on regulation, like we don't really have a choice. We have to comply. Otherwise, we aren't able to operate in the markets and provide the solutions that we want. And then I sort of really resonated with what Dr. Navjit said around the Cardano stuff, because it is mature now. And I think with L2s coming out in the next however long it'll take, it'll just only get better, at least for problems that we're trying to solve, where we no longer need to batch different transactions together, and we can just do everything at the event level.
Yeah, and if I can build on that, mentioning UTXO and stuff, like our delegated staking is a really good example of that, really. Cardano's like extended UTXO approach and native asset minting kind of makes our on-chain operations a lot smoother than they would be on EVM without some like headache of a UTXO simulation approach or like over-engineered smart contracts to compensate, right? Every node on IAGON's network is a native token on Cardano, which I think probably not a lot of people are even aware of. And those tokens like act as like a registration certificate for the node and stores details about the node that we want to kind of ensure are immutable and verifiable on chain. And same goes for every delegation position. They're all tokens. They're all like registration tokens. Sorry, what was I saying? Delegation. Delegation tokens are all on chain as well. So, I'm sorry, just slipped my thought process here.
I think it was the UTXO that Sam was talking about.
Yeah.
They're all tokens. Sorry, I just had something come up. Sorry, guys. So every node and every node's IAG token pledge is stored inside a UTXO with the node's token, and same goes for the delegated staking side. So you can always tell who owns the staked IAG by the address information that's recorded in the token's metadata, right? And we're able to kind of take multiple actions within a single transaction, like minting a node token and depositing their stake all at once for incredibly low fees, all inside of one transaction. So there's a big benefit there for UTXO usage. And we can also track all the delegated stake that in a single address on chain, because they all have their own UTXOs that they're living in on that address. So things just kind of work a lot smoother and smarter and more securely on Cardano.
So I had a question maybe for either Brock or Nav, but I'm just curious, like, before we actually started the live stream, we're talking a little bit about, some of the upcoming projects, and, I know they're about to get started, and you may want to sort of announce it on a separate occasion, but, it's made me sort of curious, for those maybe not familiar with what IAGON has been doing, who are sort of the archetype of users that would want to use IAGON? And, we've talked a little bit about enterprise customers, like who are the sorts of customers you guys are targeting, and what are the big problems that they're facing that, you truly sort of deeply believe that IAGON provides that, next generation solution for them?
Yeah, I mean, this is a great thing about market fit, right? Sometimes you have an idea or direction of which way you want to go, and we had an idea of targeting enterprise consumers, except we had never actually got to that point to say, hey, or cold call or email or, reach out to these consumers to say, hey, we have something readily available that you guys might be interested in. The great part is, and we've been fortunate enough that a lot of these companies have been reaching out to us. That's created kind of an organic market direction for us, and not generally in a fixed fashion. Some people want a certain thing, some people want a certain thing. So we have a few directions that we're working towards. One is with Worth Group. And Brock will go into it in detail there because he knows a little bit more about that than myself in terms of 3D printing and how we're helping Worth Group monetize the IP on 3D printing. So if anyone doesn't know, Worth Group is a Fortune 500 out of Europe. They work with the top car manufacturers in the world, like Porsche, GM, all these other companies. So they print a lot of 3D parts. So they have a really big business. They're a family-grown business and very reputable as well. And then we have the Fortune 50, which is yet to be announced as well, which organically reached out to us. And these things have taken so long to develop, and people in the Web3 world have a hard time sometimes understanding that, hey, things take time, right? And in this specific examples, they do really take a lot of time. So we've developed relationships with enterprises for over a year, right? Before we got to a point where they said, okay, let's go ahead with a pilot, let's go ahead with an MVP and work through this together. So it's taken a long time to back and forth and going through it, but we have a certain direction that we want to target, which is enterprises. One of the things that's common between these enterprises that they've mentioned to us in terms of why IAGON, why are you reaching out to a small company like us when there's so many other Web3 projects or storage protocols out there in the Web3 ecosystem? One of the big things that they like is the compliance factor, and they can see that through the architecture and the way that it's built. And the other thing is that they talk about the infrastructure layer, which is the layer 1, and we do highlight that in terms of how Cardano is very secure and decentralized. So I think that does have an effect. One of the main things is obviously the patent that we filed in 2018. And sometimes it goes against the grain of open source kind of thought process, but we've worked so hard and we wanted to make sure we put a lot of our effort and money into the project. And we want to make sure that it pans out the way we think it is, because otherwise it's just a risk without having any protection on the risk. And it's always a risk in any startup, but at least if you have some kind of protection, you have some kind of something to lean back on and relax. I think that's helped a lot, because any of these companies can definitely build out their own platform if they wish to, right? If they have enough funding, and they do have a lot of funding. So what's the reason why they can't build this out? And that's one of the reasons why we have this IP protected, is we can tell them, hey, this IP is protected. You do have to go through us to be able to build it out, right? And this is something, we don't say that, of course, but it's something that it's implied, and they understand that this is kind of something unique and direction that they want to cater to. And we've had a lot of leads organically, directly from our enterprises, just organically reaching out to us, which is a great sign for us, meaning that there's a lot of demand for this specific type of use case, not just for the storage, but for the compute as well. And it helps when we also try to explain any topic that we're talking about in a very clear fashion, because I think that if we get too much into the tokens, too much into the blockchain side of it, then you're confusing the end customer. You want to set your goals straight, and I think that we've done a very good job at that, and with having a clear messaging. So those things have helped.
Yeah, and the enterprise first approach, trying to go after the large clients who tend to serve large amounts of retail users with their own products and their own services, right? And then through, say, like white labeled cloud storage services that use IAGON, or just general product use from their end users, we can kind of scale our adoption a lot faster than trying to acquire like individual retail users to store their personal files and photos on IAGON, right? Like our cost savings for retail users are great and all, like $2 a terabyte is pretty tough to beat, but when it's scaled up to enterprise clients, they completely change balance sheets of these companies. Like they can turn a company from operating at a loss to suddenly generating profit just by slashing those operational costs, right?
Yeah, it's cool that you guys are going after enterprise. I assume like as you onboard enough enterprise, you'll feed that back into the IAGON to token economy in some aspect, but also you'll be able to build out more sort of scalable solutions for individual customers as well. So that's that's exciting. Like even with us, we've taken quite a similar approach, like with some of our solutions, which is maybe one of the bits that you'd probably resonate with is a lot of our customers are businesses, whether that's enterprise or SMEs, as opposed to direct community. And we're coming out with a direct to community sort of platform, either at the end of April or sometime in May, I think, which sort of connects the dots a bit, like gives the full loop of how everything comes together, which is maybe a bit similar to you guys, which is, you provide the solution for the enterprise customers, and, someone in Cardano ultimately benefits from it because of the fact that you're working with this big customer. So that's, that's really cool. And some of these enterprise customers in different sort of industry segments, but you initially started off the project with healthcare in mind. Are there other types of industries that you want to sort of focus on, or you seem to have quite a industry agnostic approach to scaling, or are you more focused on one vertical and just trying to hammer on one by one there?
Yeah, it's really tough, Sam, and I think you guys probably know it because you guys probably also have a lot of vendors from different areas, right? It's kind of hard to focus on just specific direction on a specific client in a specific industry. So we have a lot of leads, things that I could be able to mention because they don't have DAs, but it's April 1st, so maybe I should mention them, right?
Let's just announce the F50.
No one will believe you.
I mean,
it's a live stream, so I don't think we can bleep it out.
We have football teams, that are contacting us for sports data, and it's even different directions. We have also another big Fortune company that's contacting us. The same reason why the Fortune 50 contacted us. We also have, it's you don't want to miss the boat is for the enterprises. So once you hear like these bigger names, and once we are able to announce them, then what basically happens is it's a good thing, but also a bad thing for us in terms of development, because now we have to have more people on board and need more things to do, right? So, but it has a trickle down effect, and if we focus, we've taken the approach of leaving the door open, not closing it. So for enterprises, even if they're coming from a different industry aspect, be it, for example, for legal, we also have someone from legal in the US that is working with tracking data in a live environment and how data is shared between third parties and making sure that there's no breaches in that sharing of documents, because certain data is supposed to be confidential and not shared to any third parties. So they're having a trouble, for example, making sure that it's safe and no other third party has access to this data, right? And this data is archived, meaning that it's not accessible after a long time. So we have a perfect use case for this one, and there's a few things that we need to add on the tooling aspect to make it happen. And that's just something that we are like, okay, is it a good enough use case to bring in revenue immediately to the company? And if yes, then we are going to take that approach. We aren't looking at, for example, if enterprises approaches us and say, hey, there's no business plan in terms of having revenue coming into the network, right? If there's no revenue coming into the network and there's just a plan of action, then we're more likely to say no if it's a completely different industry, because then it doesn't make sense for us to build out something that we don't know for sure if it's going to work or not, and if there's any kind of end effect to this onboarding, right? So the good thing is the people that have reached out in terms of the organic interest, the enterprises, they have a concrete plan, a concrete kind of numbers on what they estimate, or they have a big name, and that has a network effect as well. So I think that's important to cater to as much as possible if we can cater to it. It's just more about hiring more people, I guess.
Brian, just give me one more question if it's all right. I've just
go ahead, man.
I've obviously been following.
April Fools, you can't talk no more. I'm going to talk right up now. I'm kidding.
obviously been following what you guys have been doing for a number of years, but it really feels like you guys are starting to, hit your stride and, busy in terms of customer onboarding. And can you sort of walk us through a little, like, is that a correct assumption, like in terms of like things really ramping up, and what's that process been like, right? Like, and this is sort of coming from a place of, it sort of feels like we're in a similar process right now as well as a project, but maybe for other protocols and projects building on Cardano, what advice could you share, maybe, as they're going through that phase, and, as the technologists say, crossing the chasm in terms of adoption?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a different feeling. I think, Sam, you probably understand, like, when you get customers onboarded, it's definitely a different feeling, because now you're going in from not just not going from, but uh, with the development, you're attaching some end customer to kind of the realization of the vision and the goals that you've had previously. So it helps with, first of all, traction. It helps with affirming that your vision or your direction was the right direction, and that like all those years that all the time and effort that you put into it before that kind of gets reaffirmed. So I think that I don't know what kind of advice I would have to founders. I would just say, like, if you think you have a very unique proposition and a unique offering, to make sure that when you're going that kind of the harder route, which is kind of just building towards that onboarding or to the adoption route, I think that's the most difficult part. And if you can get through that, I think that's a great affirmation, and it's a great feeling to have afterwards. So the only advice for me would just keep working, right, and keep working towards the goals and the visions that you might have. And that's the only advice I could probably give. But now it's a new road, so new problems, new things that might arise. So I think that it's a different ball game, obviously, when you come to this part of the road.
Yeah, I think that's one of the other benefits of like the whole point of this podcast, like the mainstream, right? Like our projects are very much focused on providing solutions to real life problems using blockchain tech, right? And I think one of the beautiful bits about that is that you're not overly reliant on the market. And, I sort of remind myself every day, like, don't look at the charts, just, focus on the pipeline and focus on the projects in front of us. Like, there's actual customers and there's actual people using our system. So, yeah, I think it's awesome to see, especially with the market going, sideways all these months. It's good to have, to be able to work on stuff with, real life customers where, their balance sheet ultimately doesn't rely on whether or not Bitcoin's up or down. So it's awesome to hear, and good advice as well, I think, for projects who are just grinding their way through it. But you guys are a great example of just persevering, I think, and like, excited to see what these projects bring for you guys. But yeah, Brian, go ahead.
Yeah, I got a couple questions based off of that 3-hour long conversation Sam just had with you guys, but I wanted, like, one of the things that you guys were talking about is enterprise adoption, right? And what has been kind of that final selling point for you guys to kind of get, as you said, it's a long process, right? Like, sometimes a year, sometimes even longer. What has kind of, like, really got those enterprise people to kind of be like, yeah, this seems like something we should definitely try? Like, is it just a combination of things?
It's a bit of a combination. I could walk you through some, like, real world, like the two major real world kind of deals that we're publicly speaking about now, and then that can kind of show you how it becomes a pretty obvious choice for these enterprises. So for the Fortune 50 pilot, right? The pilot company is basically creating their own circular economy on IAGON. They're first launching their own storage nodes, IAGON storage nodes, from data centers that they already own. And then they're going to white label the IAGON storage, like white label IAGON storage as like a cloud storage app on the laptops that they produce, right? So they kind of do both sides. And then that brings retail adoption onto IAGON's network. And it also allows the pilot company to both charge a fee for the cloud storage service, right, from all their users, and then also earn back from their own nodes in sort of like a rebate style way, right? So it all the money comes back around to them. So it just made like way more sense. Like they could build their own like kind of closed private cloud situation, but then they have to maintain those data centers, which are very costly to maintain. And it's no more secure than anything that already exists, because it's a data lake. Once you're entering it, you have access to everything, right? Like there's no proper distribution of all the files, of all the data, like we approach with our sharding and encryption process. And then Worth Group. So we're developing a tokenized IP access for their 3D printing service, which already takes a distributed approach. Cool enough. Owners of their branded and pre-configured 3D printers can accept print requests to do like to 3D print certain parts for major automakers, like Navjit said, stuff like that. But the issue is you can't easily deliver a sliced print job to the operators of the printers without literally sharing that client's IP with basically a random person from their perspective. So we're developing a system that can verifiably deliver a print job to a 3D printer via an IP access token that's minted on Cardano. And upon successful print completion, it burns the access token. And the access tokens would basically contain a temporary hash to data that's stored on IAGON, of course. And it's only usable when coupled with the printer's like unique auth key or whatever the situation is there. And then that sliced 3D print file can be accessed by the printer, and then the hash expires, and hash expires like after the access token is burned. So the owner of the printer can't just like print Mercedes parts for fun whenever they want, right? Like that's the issue there, is that they're accepting this job, but that's like a reproducible job that they can then go on to like, hey, I'm selling, dashboard vents for Mercedes because I printed one for them way back and they paid me for it. And now I can just create this like weird black market of kind of knockoff parts, I guess. So these solutions, like they're solutions to real problems that these companies struggle with, and they're solutions that save them a ton of money and kind of create their own economies within our ecosystem.
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think that it's important that whenever enterprises approach you or any company, for example, this is for all founders out there. You are the expert in your domain, right? So you have to act like it. When they're approaching you with information or questions about how it works and how it works with Cardano, you should know your domain really well, and that's important, because when they know, first they have to trust you, and that's the one thing and foremost, right? You have to understand that if you don't portray yourself well, or you don't communicate well, then it's very hard to get an onboarding of an enterprise client. The other is, obviously, you have to have a product that backs up what you're saying. And I think that also, at that time when we started speaking, we just launched, storage mainnet, right? And that was kind of affirmation that, okay, these guys are doing something. They're building continuously, and they have some deliveries during that conversation. So it's not just all talk. It's also, backing it up with kind of deliverables that might not be related to what we're doing, but showcasing the enterprise that they have some traction along the way, and that they are garnering a lot of organic attention, right? So I think that it's kind of hard for us to, let's say, judge at what specific point are they saying, hey, they're the right point, because that you'd have to ask them that question. But from our point of view, I think, and from my point of view, I think it's important that you have to communicate very confidently and approach it with that you are the expert in this domain, and that you are giving them the correct information.
I can't find the unmute button. Oh my God. I'm struggling there for a little bit. I apologize about that. One of the things that that you talked about earlier was that you kind of have changed your path, right? You started out in medical records, you started out on EVM. What has really played into those decisions? And also, has the community played any role in that along the way? Like any of your decisions on the approach that you're taking? And not only that, how, if I'm a community member, how can I get involved more so? I know that you have running a nodes. Maybe if you can talk about how a little bit about that stuff too, would be really cool.
Yeah,
maybe Brock wants to go into the community stuff first, and then
Yeah.
we can go through the other stuff.
Yeah, totally. I also double as a community guy. So I spend
I seen that cape on you. I seen the cape.
yeah, a lot of my day in the Discord, just chatting with everybody. No, but a strong community is the strongest form of marketing, in my opinion, especially in Web3, like 100%, with like Twitter and everything, right? Like it all lives there. That's how people find out about stuff in crypto, and it's very valuable. We can spend way more time actually building and less time like combating senseless FUD on Twitter or whatever, when we have passionate and well-informed community on our side. So our community is it's also like they're also our network as well. Like you said, many of them are either running a node or contributing to the network, like contributing their resources to the network, or they're delegating their IAG tokens to a node to enable that node's contribution, which we've seen in the last week since delegated staking launched. And we also kind of utilize our community for product testing as well. We have a lot of very experienced super users in our community, I would call them. And whenever we have a major project release coming up, we give them a few weeks or so to try to break things and provide feedback to us, find little bugs and stuff like that. And it's super beneficial to get fresh eyes on something that we've just been like staring at for many months, and like 3 or 4 of us can't really push the limits of those of things on our own. It kind of takes numbers, so getting a dozen or so passionate community members in there, pushing buttons and spamming transactions, and trying to break stuff on pre-prod.net is super valuable in that regard.
Yeah, the community is definitely the backbone of any company in Web3. I think that's important too. And you'd be surprised how many people have good connections. So always treat them with respect. And it's very important because they come from all lives. They come from a lot of places in different regions and different workplaces. So a lot of connections actually we've gotten are through the community members. So you'd be surprised at how many people are just watching, and sometimes they reach out to you in a random, like this person, for example, has never reached out before, but hey, I know someone that you might find interesting, and you might want to have a talk with him, right? And of course, this do your own research kind of thing or whatever. It's the warning sign there. There's also a lot of phishing attacks, so make sure you're aware of what you're doing. But there are a lot of community members that really believe in the idea and the vision, and you have to make sure you support the community in any way possible. Listen to them. The vision obviously changes, but the general vision should stay the same, in my opinion. So making the initial vision, which is why people are listening and understanding on what we are doing. That's why they take everything seriously, right? I mean, that's why they're supporting. That's why they're going out of their way to help in testing. That's why they're delegating their tokens. Is because they understand, and not obviously the side effects of just having returns or rewards, but you have to have some kind of trust between what you're doing as well. I think that's an important part as well. So yes, we have molded the kind of direction of maybe we might tweak it here and there, but the general vision has stayed the same. In terms of the healthcare side, it was molded very early. So because I didn't approach the idea back in 2013. I had 2 kids, and then a lot happened in my life. I had my own clinic, and then in 2017, early 2017 is when we started really looking at the IAGON model again. It was called Juno before, by the way, and then renamed to IAGON, and then the co-founders actually molded into a more generic vision instead of just concentrating on healthcare data itself. So it still fit the model, and we still want to do healthcare.
Yeah.
And that part has to do with Midnight, how we might work with Midnight on that.
It's funny. I just to keep talking about healthcare, right? That's the reason I got into blockchain back in 2016, right? Somebody had told me about this company who was building a system for healthcare records, right? And that was my breakthrough moment, right? Was like, holy shit. Like, yeah, perfect. That's what you need to be able to access your healthcare records from anywhere if I travel across the country or whatever. And that's really what brought me into blockchain and where I started to learn more about blockchain from that point.
Yeah, Charles likes to give this example of you're skiing in Aspen and you break your leg, right? Like, why do you have to wait for a fax from your doctor? Like, what year is it? Like, come on. Like, how is this not? It's a very clear problem that needs to be solved. And though it does kind of it needs some incorporation of other advancements like DIDs, right? Like,
I do have to say that's an American problem, though. There are
very.
Yeah.
But there are problems, of course, in Europe in a different way. So that's one of the reasons why we want to do it, right? Because it's very backdated the way healthcare data is managed.
Yeah, it scales significantly too. Like, it's not just as simple as, oh yeah, here's what you're allergic to, and it's recorded on it's cryptographically encrypted and whatever. It opens up huge capabilities for, like, if you think about the sports industry, right? Like, players' health data is part of their career. Like, athletes are probably the only people that I'm aware of who maybe like soldiers and stuff, but their health data is basically like turned into a business, right? Like, people need to be able to see their health data to know how they're expected to perform in the next season or whatever. And that determines their contracts and stuff like that. Like, why should they not be earning a fee off of the access to their own private health data? Like, give them a sense of agency and give them the ability to kind of, generate profit off of that anytime somebody inquires about their health data, or health data polling. Like, if you need to know how many people experience a condition within a set region, right? Like, you start to quickly see why we're so focused on regions and creating these buckets of secure data, and then allowing people to use zero knowledge to access it, and a fee is charged and given to the person whose data is being read, if they're it's a volunteer thing if they choose to opt into it. But there's so many ways to expand out healthcare that is securely stored and is distributable through zero knowledge. And I get really excited talking about it because it's like the big product that I'm excited to get started on in the coming years.
I mean, it's a huge market, right? To be truthful. And let me just also add that token also was my first rug in blockchain. So shout out to Timmy Coin.
You and I think I have a completely different entry point into crypto. I got into crypto because I liked insurance, basically. And I was just thinking, as Brock was talking about health data, it'd be funny if the betting markets and the gambling markets got involved, and they'd be like, like that basketball athlete looks like his testosterone's a bit lower this quarter.
Yeah. And then an oracle pulls his t-test.
Yeah.
Well, that's the only data that's public is sports data, right? Athlete data.
Yeah. And it shouldn't be so freely public, in my opinion. I think
that's what we're working on, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I had a question. I recently saw the announcement about Intersect, I believe. Could you talk a bit about that? Like, it's quite fresh off the news, and I had a quick glance at it. Looked quite interesting, but very cool to see, you like having customers within the Cardano community, right? Like beyond sort of the token holders and the node operators. So can you tell us what are you guys doing, and what's the significance behind all of that?
Yeah, I can touch on that briefly. It's funny. Lawrence and Ryan came up to me in Vegas at Rare Evo, and first things first, they were like, "Are you an Intersect member?" And they were trying to make sure that everybody they talk to is signed up and is an Intersect member. But IAGON became an Intersect member, I believe, right, Nav? I sent you a message right away. I was like, "Hey, sign us up for Intersect."
We were already Intersect members, and then
we were already okay. Cool. Yeah, but anyway, we got to talking about what we do, and how we could help them is always the thing that I'm after in a conversation with other companies and stuff. And yeah, it turns out they were just paying like egregious amounts of money for web hosting services, and through AWS. And we started talking to them, and we were like, yeah, we have this like enterprise compute product that we're coming out with. And it's a very it's less like generic like our current storage product. It's very like it comes with support, and it's very like high quality, assured, a very professional service for what those companies are kind of used to. Probably even more attentive to their needs than like Amazon. Like you're not going to have to go to Amazon support to to get an answer. You can just reach out directly to us. But yeah, we're able to save them thousands of euros a month on compute services to run their website and their forums and stuff like that. And of course, in turn, they get to contribute to the growth of a Cardano based project instead of sending more money off to Jeff Bezos, right? Like, and it just makes sense for everybody.
Well, they save about 60%. So I think it's around a little bit more than 50%. They save around 60%, and obviously they haven't fully migrated over yet. But this is kind of a trial phase. So it's a 3-month, 2-month paid, a 1-month free. And if they like the services, hopefully they choose to migrate. And so at least the early testing we've done, it's much more performant than AWS, and at the same time, cost effective. So those are the two things that help. It's still it's not fully decentralized yet. Of course, I have to point that out. Being transparent, still a centralized system in the beginning. Over time, as more nodes come to the enterprise compute, we will have more redundant and distributed and decentralized mechanism here. But for now, it's just the few nodes that we have, the cluster nodes. I think there's 3. And then after that, we will expand from there as more users come on board. And we want to test it specifically for enterprise users because we want to deliver a product that's competitive with AWS, but at the same time, much more cost effective. That way we can capture at least the local audience or, in Cardano ecosystem, hopefully, and expand from there. We're in talks with a few already to hopefully migrate over as well from AWS, and let's see if that rolls around. And slowly we have some plans on how we think we're going to increase that capacity in terms of the number of nodes, where we get the community involved as well.
Yeah, I was up late last night architecting that, and I'm pretty excited about what I came up with.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome. And so, yeah, one of the questions I had was around the roadmap and milestones, right? Like you've given us like quite a clear picture in terms of what you guys are working on, what you're working towards. You've got 2 really big projects, right? Which I think part of the last Catalyst round that you guys are about to kick off. What does the rest of 2025 look like, right? We've just started Q2 and we've got 3 quarters left. What are the big targets you guys have internally? Is it several more enterprise projects to wrap, to jump into 2026? Like what new products? Like what? You guys have a bit of alpha for the community?
I mean, I'll let Brock announce the alphas, but basically we have a pretty focused direction on just making sure the enterprise pilot and the MVP work. We have hopefully as long as we get good feedback and going through the steps in a timely manner with Worth Group and the Fortune 50, we hopefully to get that released around August. We have a new node software coming up, which is optimized and much more better in terms of learning the behavior and performance and other metrics. Now our focus is turned to the UI of the front facing for the storage app. So anyone that wants to store data, we want to actually make a really competitive, compelling story around a solution where you would be happy to store, your files on, and an easy kind of much better user experience than we have currently. You'll be able to share files. You'll be able to drop links to your communities to download, even with passport encrypted and things like that. So there's going to be a lot of new things with the new UI storage app. I'm working more on the business side in terms of bringing on more customers in the meantime, but we do have already a long product pipeline on with Brock. Maybe Brock wants to go into that a little bit.
Yeah, very excuse me, very enterprise focused, but we're also kind of locking in on some retail features and really good user experience around creating a product on our product, really, for people to use. So like Nav said, storage is getting totally rebuilt. It's going to be way more features, way more functionality, a lot more what people are used to from like the Web 2 alternatives out there, what they're used to interacting with and how they're used to sharing files and quickly dropping files in and creating share links and stuff like that. Volo Suite is on the docket list coming up. That'll be our chat app, which also kind of unlocks mobile storage functionality as well. So you'll be able to manage your IAGON files and send them through the chat app as well. So it'll be a pretty cool end product or end user focused product. Our ledger flow suite is getting totally rebuilt as well. We want to create a full kind of finance suite around that where you can export your crypto taxes and stuff like that, manage multi-sig wallets, a lot of added functionality and stuff that we just haven't had time in the past to kind of focus on. But yeah, a lot of retail user products coming up, as well as all the enterprise adoption that's going on, all that growth.
Yeah, I mean, why we're doing that is just because we want to onboard consumers. End of the day, they're going to be using the storage, which is the underlying asset and our underlying main goal. But building use cases around that is important because you want to drive that adoption and usability, because just storage alone is not going to be used, right? You have to have some apps built around that can be utilized and people see as useful for their daily activities. And I think that helps with, tax app, maybe backing up your tax papers and, backing up your ledger info or, whatever it is that you want to do while utilizing the storage, but using the apps that you might use on a daily basis as well. Yeah, there's other things as well, but I think there's, I don't want to leak too much information. We're going to give some alpha, but I don't know if that's alpha is considered alpha on April 1st.
Yeah, there's no alpha on April 1st, that's for sure.
Can't drop alpha on April 1st.
Yeah. No, it's cool to be able to build products on our own product, right? Like it's the ultimate way to show developers as well. Like, hey, look what you can build. Like we built this whole chat app using IAGON storage, right? And the secure, end-to-end encryption, and it's just nice to be able to demonstrate what can be built here, and then that helps attract new development onto IAGON's into IAGON's ecosystem.
Yeah, the compute marketplace is coming out. Speaking of that, Brock, the public compute marketplace is probably coming out this year. Basically, it'll be Cyclone's also coming out this month. Hopefully, planned this month. We're shipping that out.
Oh yeah, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, that looks really cool. It looks really cool. I'm sure it works really well as well. But
yeah, I mean, Brock's tested it. Do you still have one, Brock, at home?
Yeah, I've got one. I actually made there's a custom gold shell sitting on my desk here as well.
That's pretty cool.
Which is pretty cool. But
it's pretty small if you look at it. It's not that big, actually. Yeah.
I was just gonna add, like, it's pretty cool how I think a lot of other like only Web3 native projects don't really experience is the fact that when you're the business that like has a like quite a broad spectrum of customers, all the way from retail to enterprise, which is like clearly what you guys do. Also, what we sort of do as well is that like a normal Web2 business would just focus on just enterprises or maybe like, you know, larger businesses or something, and that's their segment they want to play in, and then they expand over time. Or, you know, if you're a Web3 business that just wants to do Web3, and this is not meant to be like a knock on any protocol at all, but your customer base is the DeFi users, for example. Like if you run a DEX, you're not really thinking about enterprise use cases. It's like everyone is a user basically that wants to use your platform. And basically what that means is it forces you to like try, it's an unconventional strategy, right? Because you should really not split your focus too much, but you're sort of splitting your focus even though everyone tells you not to. And you're bouncing between creating this, like, takes longer, I think, clearly, which is like, we're a good example of that. And so are you guys, right? But you bounce around and you sort of get this flywheel of feedback, run from one side to another. The other bit that's quite funny that you mentioned, which is very similar to what we're doing, is like we've actually set up a US-based entity to basically use the stuff that we've built around traceability and like the commodity trade platform to actually source products. And there's going to be like the alpha for us on April 1 is that, you know, that's going to ultimately there's a solution for the community basically around that, and we're demonstrating to them that we can build these business cases on top of like the infrastructure we've built. So it's it's really cool that you guys taken such a similar approach, and it's quite unconventional, and provides a great deal of unnecessary stress, I think. But you do get like I think at some point you get that flywheel of feedback, which then you can go and say, hey, look, like enterprise customer, like look at all these, you know, 5 to 10 use cases that the community uses. And they go, wow, that's pretty cool. So kudos to you guys. I know the pain that it causes, but it's very cool that you've taken quite a similar approach, or we've taken a similar approach to you guys, I guess. Really, you guys have been building for longer. So very, very, very funny. That's where we've ended up.
I mean, I 100% agree with you, Sam. It's like, you know, it's not easy having this different directions, but it does help with giving you a much broader kind of direction and direction to go to, which is very complex. So it's not for everyone, but I think that it fits certain business use cases, and definitely, for example, Zengate, if it's perfectly for retail and enterprises, right? And for IAGON, it fits perfectly as well, because we're driving both sides, the user and the business side. So yeah, definitely agree with you there. But not easy for sure.
Not easy at all. But we've come kind of towards the end. We do this little fun section at the end just called rapid fire. I'm going to give out 5 questions. Navjit, if you want to go first, and then Brock, you want to answer after. It should just be 1 to 2, maybe 3 words each answer, right? So we'll start the little rapid fire. What superpower, if you could have one, would that superpower be?
Is that to Brock or to me?
That goes to you, and you first, and then he'll answer after you.
What superpower?
If you could have one superpower, what would that superpower be?
To change to any superpower I want to.
Genie for more wishes. Yeah.
Genie for more wishes.
Good answer.
Brock.
I'd say teleportation.
Ooh, teleportation.
Yeah, easy one.
That's a good one. I hate flying. Like, it's too cramped for me. So like teleportation would definitely be a good one. Wildest decentralized storage use case that you can think of?
Repeat that again. The wildest
Decentralized storage use case you can think of, or have heard somebody say.
That's a good one. I don't know if it's wild, but it was really difficult to do. Was public storage. So
Just public storage.
yeah, that's just difficult. It's almost impossible because you get illegal data, and it's kind of impossible. So I don't know if it's wild, but it's very difficult.
Hard. Rough.
For wild in a cool way, I'm always held up on the medical records and zero knowledge
Medical
polling. It's so sick.
One thing if you could store one thing on chain, what would it be?
One thing on chain, what would it be?
Like forever?
Yeah, it's on chain, right? So it's forever.
Yeah, right.
What do you store in there?
I would probably store if in the later days, photos of my family, maybe.
Is it a privacy chain, or are those photos visible?
Yeah.
This is very public, Brock. It's a public chain.
Midnight here? Okay.
No,
Okay, so Cardano,
midnight is out, not out yet.
Just my money, man. Like
Your money,
my
yeah.
ultimate use case, right?
Mine is the Wheel of Time series, so I want that stored on there so I must have read it like 20 times, but I'm not done yet. So,
That's it.
what is the biggest blockchain myth that you think you hear?
Ooh.
Biggest blockchain myth. There's two actually. So one is I don't know if it's a blockchain myth or general, but basically there's a myth where they say basically decentralization. You can't have full decentralization. I think you either have to take centralization or decentralization, which is not true in my opinion. But that's one myth, and the other one is don't know if this is a blockchain myth, but a lot of times people say open source equals decentralization, which is
I was thinking this one too.
Yeah. Not true at all. Not true.
Everything is, there's different use cases for everything. I'd say the idea that a product's whole end user experience has to be done through the blockchain. I think there's a healthy balance needs to be struck.
Not everything needs to be on the blockchain.
No, you don't need to sign your wallet for every single thing. Oh my God.
No, not at all. Describe Cardano in 3 words.
Built well. I don't know, less than 3 words.
There you go.
Super well.
Super well.
I'd say decentralized global network.
And the last one, what do you find most exciting in Web3 right now?
IAGON.
IAGON. Good answer.
Yeah, that's the answer we're paid to say, right? I'd say identity. Vested interest.
Medical records.
I'd say identity and data protection. It's so basically IAGON.
So, guys, I want to thank you very much for coming along. Brock, anything you want to just finish up with? Anything you want to get out that we didn't maybe talk about?
If you got IAG tokens, there's a ton of nodes looking for delegation. So if you want to make some money with that node, go partner up, start providing some storage, and start earning. It's pretty cool. It's a cool product.
Navjit, anything you want to add on?
Thanks for having us, guys. Appreciate all inviting us to the stream, and everyone for listening in. And feel free to check us out. Our Discord is very active. X is very active. Feel free to join and ask questions. We're happy to answer any questions that you guys might have.
Sam. Oh yeah, absolutely. Enjoyed it. We'll definitely have to do it again sometime in the future. Sam, it was good to have you back on. It looks pretty late there over in Japan. Maybe we'll let you go to bed.
Yeah, I gotta get home first. But no,
just sleep in the office, bro.
No, I can't do
We're
that.
gonna be in Japan next week, by the way. Well, this week, yeah.
What was that? Sorry.
We are going to be in Japan next week.
Oh, are you? Okay. I
Where are you
won't
gonna-
be in Japan. I'm going to be in Africa, but
Okay. Oh yeah, you said earlier in the video.
but I think Dan and the team will be here. So
Yeah.
are you going to Teams? Is that what you guys?
Yeah, Team Summit. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you'll probably see Dan up in Tokyo. But
Awesome.
my one tip is if you like ramen, my favorite ramen joint. There's a chain called Afuri Ramen. It's a yuzu flavored ramen, and that stuff's really good.
I'll try it out.
That's all I'll say to anyone listening and to those thinking about coming to Tokyo. We're actually based in Osaka, but
Okay. Yeah, we're actually gonna fly. We're doing a family trip for flying to Osaka first. So
are you okay?
Osaka first, yeah.
Oh,
We'll
excellent.
come the 3rd and then leave on the 19th. Yeah.
Oh, you're coming on the 3rd. Well,
Yeah.
I leave on the 7th, I think. So maybe we can catch up.
Maybe. Yeah.
Excellent.
Well-
Okay. Well, yeah. Thanks for having me on, and yeah, it's great to finally speak to Brock and Nav properly. And big fan of your project, obviously. So yeah, keep it going. Looks like you guys are really crushing it already this year. So yeah, excited to keep following all the news.
Yeah, and I want to thank everybody for listening, and I really appreciate everybody joining us today. Nav, Brock for coming, Sam for staying up late. He's still drinking coffee over there. And don't forget, today is April Fool's, so don't believe anything that we've said. This show is probably not even real. I don't know what to tell you. But this is Brian signing off from my house, not Japan. Everybody take care. Have a great day. We'll see you soon.